I need to know because the battery's going to go dead. Yeah, the battery will go dead, and I need to know that's flicking.
Right.
That's 3 bars, you motherfucker. That's 3 bars.
It's not as bad as you thought? Or it's better than you thought?
It's better than I thought, really. It's better than I thought. But look, hey guys, welcome to the Pagey Train for another week and another interview. Today I have with me the fiercely intelligent, beautiful, vivacious, someone with fantastic hair, Misty McPhail. Welcome to the Pagey Train.
Thanks very much for having me. Thanks for that great intro too.
Oh, you like that intro? Well, I must say, clearly, just to put it out into clear spectrum,
I have good hair.
You do have fantastic hair. You are my partner, my confidant,
My love.
my love. And look, I've been meaning to get you on the show, and it's happened sooner rather than later. Because I was trying to get you in the end, because you're doing the PhD and everything.
I know.
And look, let's just get things straight. Before Misty is doing a PhD, she's also doing the the Digital Writers Festival. You're also running the volunteer army for the Sydney Writers Festival. Oh my gosh, what was that, 300 people involved in that? And the managing director of Made in the West. So let me welcome you again, Misty. Thank you so much
As
for being
all
on the
of
show.
those things, except I don't actually work for DWF now, but I did do. I moonlighted there for a short while in the 2017 festival. Now I'm just a big fan.
Well, look, don't get me wrong. Even I had a little bit of a hand in the Digital Writers Festival.
I know
but I didn't get a credit. That's all right.
You
That's
were
all right,
behind the
DWF.
scenes, giving me key, information about how to switch, which was just insane. I absolutely
Vision switching is important.
Yeah, I absolutely take my hat off to anybody who is behind, multiple cameras switching live on any kind of event, because it was challenging.
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just the
you gotta
framing.
be onto
It's
it.
not just the framing. It's the composition, and it's also the technical setup of doing that. And there's always different contexts. Like you could be in a video van doing it, or you could be in a studio doing it. The principles remain the same, and it's about composition and when to switch.
Yeah.
Do you need to be on someone's voice all the time? If their voice is on, like even the show, for instance, you cut between their 2 shots, and you got to pick what shots you're cutting between. It's either reaction or it's speaking.
Yeah.
So no, I certainly take pride in having a hand in things like that, which is a decent myriad. I'm proud to say it is fun, but you certainly, for the Digital Writers Festival aside, you are certainly a champion of the Sydney Writers Festival. Who are you?
I'm just the longest standing, staff member, that's all. The one who's stuck around for the longest. Shout out to Natasha, who's only just, left the organisation. She was around the same time as me. But yeah, I run the volunteers and internships program.
Where did you start in the organisation?
I started as a volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I remember back when we were in university days, in the early, better part of this decade ago.
Earlier in this decade.
Earlier this decade. I remember wanting to go and get an internship at the Writers Festival, and I couldn't. There wasn't one available. And I remember telling one of the lecturers that I wanted to get an internship there, and she said, "What do you want to do with this degree that you're doing?" I was studying an arts degree. I said, "Oh, well, I reckon I could go and work somewhere like the Sydney Writers Festival, And as someone who was fresh into the state, I'm from Perth, so I had only been in Sydney for 2 years. And
so you're like a Westy. So I'm like a bit of a Westy
Yeah.
because I met you in Western Sydney, in Western Australia to come to Western Sydney.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from as far west as you can get, right? Figure that out.
Westy.
Yeah, so I had told one of my lecturers that I wanted to work there, and she kind of, laughed at me and sort of said, "Oh, yeah, sure, no worries. Maybe look at an internship or whatever it is, and tried to essentially steer me off into a different direction. And I knew that I was really interested in working there, and so. But
so hold on, you got a bit of the fob off, like
oh, you won't get that.
No, look, that's out of reach.
I don't think you understand.
Full up. They're full up at the moment.
I don't think you understand like how difficult it is to possibly get on the team at Writers Festival. Like, you know,
it's a tough nut to crack.
You know, and so, but a few weeks later, after I inquired about it, and there was no internship available, there was one, but it was for an overseas student, so you couldn't get one as a Sydney student. She happened to get an email about volunteering, and she flicked it onto me saying, oh, well, you could volunteer there, you know, if you're interested in the organisation. So I applied, and I got into the volunteer team, and all I thought was, I'm just going to be the best I possibly can be, you know. I'll be the best volunteer they've ever seen. And then at the end of it, I'll casually mention that I wanted to get an internship, and somebody is going to say, I've got the job for you, right? That was my plan.
Hopes and dreams.
I know.
Actually, Misty, while I've got you, can you just pull the mic a little bit closer to you? So pull it in. It's on a nice little arm there. Just pull it a bit of a fist underneath. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot better. There you go.
Yeah, so I applied and got into the volunteer program, and did a great job, you know, as you do. It's and I just really enjoyed it. And
what did you enjoy about it? Was it like the interface with like patrons that are going to the organisation, or is it the interface with the organisation? The idea that you're amongst authors.
I'm a customer service gal, right? So I'm definitely fine with the interaction with people. I love large events, you know, and I definitely like the intensity of those large events. But more at the time, it was about, you know, I was a budding writer. I was studying writing at uni. I wanted to be around people who wrote, and I wanted to be inspired by people who were in the industry. And I think that's a big reason why many people volunteer there. You know, now later on, I see that.
And just to clarify, how many volunteers do you have for the festival?
It changes every year. So
what's the bandwidth?
Between 250 and 350.
That's a lot of damn people.
It's a lot of people, I know. Systems, that's the key.
Okay,
Systems,
okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, not to get too far away from it all. So you started as one of these 250, 300 people being a volunteer. So you've obviously, you know, cast a light somewhere where someone sees a bit of promise.
Well,
what's going on with that?
I followed through with my plan, and I went to the rap party afterwards, and I casually mentioned to the volunteer
Always go to the rap party, people. Rap party's where it's at.
So I casually mentioned that I wanted an internship, and the volunteer coordinator, I love, Jenny, she said,
oh, she's lovely, yeah.
The next event that I'm going to run, I'm running by myself, and I could really do with someone to help me. I could go an intern, and so I had the opportunity to work with her at the Willara Festival in town.
That's right, because you were doing the I totally forgot about the Willara Festival.
The Willara Festival, and it was from start to finish. You know, 6 months worth.
A lot of name drops in there, like it. Was it Turnbull's wife?
Yeah, Lucy Turnbull was on the program. She was on the program, and you know, I worked with some great artistic directors down there, Carmel and Roz, and Jenny Bradbury. Obviously, it was, you know, fantastic.
A big shout
to
out
work
to Jenny.
with.
Oh, you're so lovely.
She's lovely.
I always enjoy having a drink or a coffee with you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So I worked with her, and I got to see everything from, you know, the planning and timelining through to ticketing and recruiting volunteers and the production side of things, the running of the event, the after all of that stuff, you know. And it was just such a great opportunity. And at the end of that, she still had another year in the role as volunteer coordinator at the Writers Festival. And I came back as a contract worker, someone for the week, and I was a front of house manager. I got to work in Sydney Opera House.
If you're in the arts, you do a lot of contract work, just putting that out there.
Yeah, that's very true. Sydney Opera House, Sydney Town Hall, the City Recital Hall, like these are some of the biggest...
These are beautiful venues.
Beautiful venues, and some of the biggest venues in
and majestic.
town.
They're majestic venues. Yeah.
Felt like an imposter in the middle of the city, you know.
I know that feeling.
I'm a tourist in town, and here I am working underground at the Sydney Opera. It was a wonderful opportunity. And
just even all the stone and all the archways and the art that's on the walls. It's just. I don't know the word to put around that. It just gives you a big sense of awe, right?
I guarantee you, I've been lost in the back hallways of all three of those venues.
Yeah, and the inner workings. But to even be lost in a space like that,
actually, in a couple of them, it's really difficult to get lost.
Yeah, but to be in the inner workings of the Opera House, or the because you guys are out at Carriage Works, you're on the wharf.
Yeah, we are now.
Yeah, like all these different venues that are right next to the bridge or right next to the harbour. What an absolute privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic. I mean, why do you think I'm still there, you know? It's a great opportunity. I get to, coming from, you know, out hills direction and mountains direction.
We're at the foothills of the hills
and lobbing
of the mountains
straight on into Circular Quay and opening up to that view each morning going to work. What a privilege.
It is gorgeous.
You know?
It is gorgeous.
Yeah, I definitely
because you guys are based down in the rocks there.
Yeah.
Yep. Look, you know, not to go too far away, just to take you back a little bit. So you started as a volunteer. And then into you got noticed after that point. So what happened after that?
Yeah, so as I say, I started as a volunteer. I went on to Wallara Festival. Then I got into those great big venues that I was so excited about being in. And then at the end of that year, Jenny decided to move on to another job. And she put my name forward to take on the volunteer coordinator role. And back then we were sitting on around 200, I think it was, 220 volunteers. And I just thought that was huge, you know. I had run in previous jobs, I'd done rosters for 100 people before, and I thought that was big at the time. At Wallara Festival, I ran the volunteer team there. It was like 25 people. And Jenny just said to me, it's the same. You'll be fine. Set up the systems, you know.
It's just a bigger quantity.
It's just a bigger version of the same thing, you know. And I just remember being so nervous in my first year. But, you know, you've got to give it a go.
Well, can I ask you this? Like, what's the importance of having a volunteer force? Because essentially you've got this group of people that is a volunteer army, if you like.
And they are the best volunteer army in the state, in the country, if I may say
and rated
so.
well in the world.
We have the best volunteers at Sydney Writers Festival. Shout out to all my favourite ladies and gentlemen.
I guess my question is, like, because being your favourite ladies and gentlemen, what's the importance of having a volunteer army for a job like that? Why is that important?
For lots of reasons, but mainly for the people power. Okay, so as far as the organisation is concerned, the people power, because, you know, we have a really small team in the office. There's less than 10 people who are in the office throughout the year. That's not me included. You know, then we have the contract workers that come in the first half of each year. There might be, you know, an extra 10, 15 people who bump up numbers and, you know, interns and this sort of thing. And then come festival, there's crew, you know, and there's a limited number of crew. But that's
you mean like the backstage?
Yeah. There were the people in black, all the you know,
all the behind the scenes people.
Yeah. The production team. And so then, you know, but then there's so many other things that need doing. Everything that's front facing. Think info booths.
What do you mean front facing? You mean like front of house?
Yeah.
Public interface.
Yeah, absolutely.
Public interface.
Answering questions for people, giving people directions, you know, standing at the door, helping check tickets, guiding people in the right way, you know, at the info booth, taking surveys. You know, there are so many different things that volunteers do. And they, you know, at the Writers Festival, they also run the green rooms too. So they're...
Oh, you mean from the celebrity side of things, the authors?
Yeah, when the authors come through, they've got to check in at the green room and go out onto stage. You know, it's a big process that, you know, and there's sometimes 300, you know, up to 400 authors. So that's a lot of people coming and going. So obviously people power makes is a big part of it. I always say that it's our job to bring the buzz, right? And so
I think this is a big part of it, right?
Yeah, you've got to, like, festivals are exciting, and when you're attending a festival, you want to find people to help you and get where you want to go.
That's kind of where I'm going with it, right? Is because, like, if you think about it, people go to a festival for that interaction, and I think, don't get me wrong, you go to see an author, or you go to see a filmmaker, or you go and see whatever artist has some work to present that is up for critique. But I think getting people to that venue is also an experience. So I guess I'm coming from a question of, you know, is there an importance of a volunteer army a part of that experience? Like, because because you think about it from a robotics sense, you know, like if you just go that way, or, you know, you could have signs that point people in directions. You could have signage,
except nobody reads the signs.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That human interaction is important, right? And I think that's what makes a difference. Yeah. Am I wrong in saying that, or
not necessarily? I think you're partly right. I think the social interaction is a big part of why people go to a festival. They also go for the atmosphere, which I think is created by lots of people interacting, you know. But they also go for other reasons. They also go to acquire knowledge, you know, learn things about themselves, to you know, pay homage to someone that they love. You know, there's a lot of fan culture involved in writers' festivals too.
Well, that's something that I've really gotten out of the Sydney Writers' Festival, is going to see your idols. Yeah. Because there's some people out there that...
fascinating people out there writing books and talking about
absolutely. There's
things,
some people out there that are telling stories in a context that is either relevant to the zeitgeist of what we're experiencing as humans at this time and place, or the nostalgic idea of something that's outside of that. And experiences I've got, I think Vince Vaughn was one of the biggest ones.
Wasn't Vince Vaughn?
Vince
was
Vaughn.
Breaking Bad.
Vince Vaughn. I do that every time. So putting that in the outtake. Is it going to be in the episode? Totally. Vince Gilligan.
Vince Gilligan, the writer of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, the writer of Breaking Bad. It's not the guy that did... You know, the bad version of... No, not the Wedding Crashers, but he also did the bad version of True Detective, because you had True Detective with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, which was fucking mint, right? And then you got Vince Vaughn, which is this fucking level...
Hey, I like Vince Vaughn.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but he's not...
He's not Vince Gilligan.
He's not Vince Gilligan. I do it every time. But with that said, you know, jokes aside, like showing up to that venue and watching this man talk about this really cool story that he's written and the motivations that come behind it. But I think the biggest thing that came behind it is, you know, all of the steps that it took to get to that masterpiece. And I think that's the value that you get out of festivals, is you get this background.
You mean as an artist?
Yeah.
Seeing hearing about the process?
Yeah. Even as an audience participant, as a patron, you realise that there's no such thing as an overnight success. That overnight success was a lead up.
Yeah.
And that lead
up... And
it
takes skill, and it takes practice, it takes learning, it takes, you know, knowledge about your craft in order to get there.
And I think it's festivals that bring out that grassroots idea.
Yes,
right?
yes.
It really does.
Well, festivals are like the new distributors, right? And the new marketing platform for products. I mean, think about film festivals, right? So
well, it's easy to think about film festivals. I run a fucking film festival with Misty.
So do I.
We run a fucking film festival.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard of it, it's called Made in the West.
It is called Made in the West, and it's the best.
It's the best in the West. Or the best student film, or the Audience Choice Award.
The thing that I love about Made in the West is that we decided long ago that
there's so many. It's so complex. Personally, it's so complex.
What we wanted to do was put on the festival that we wanted to go to.
Yeah, I think that's a big crux, right?
It's one of the reasons why I really...
It's crux.
The crux of the matter is...
The crux
of the matter. Definitely not a crutch. It could be a crux, though. It could be the crux of the matter, I'm not sure.
The point of the issue is that it was a festival that we would want to go to.
Yeah, it's got to be fun. You know,
you want to
especially if we're going to be doing it. We're organising it on our weekends. You know, in our spare time, we want to put on a party.
Yeah, it was certainly not idle time. It's spare time that is not in idle. It's fucking full gear all the time.
It is.
Oh my gosh! Try run a festival, people. Oh gosh.
We definitely understand now why a lot of festivals fold after a few years.
Yeah, totally.
It takes. You know, dedication to do.
It takes a bit of drive
to do that every year. You know?
But I think things that fuel the drive is the participants. Like, don't get me wrong.
Totally.
Like, I know, don't get me wrong, guys. I'm fucking 4 beers into this shit, and I'm ready to break this down with the woman that I love. But man, we run a festival that's really freaking hard. I'll give you a shot at it. It is really difficult. But with that said, like, why do we do it? Like, I think it comes back to working in community TV, being in a band.
It's definitely about community. It's definitely about for me. It's about giving people support networks, because as creative people, we need to know that other people are also doing things and going through the same issues or the same process.
There's an acceptance level to it, yeah.
Yeah, there's so
there's other elements too, but.
and also and being on that same page with people is really great. The other part of it for me, you know, as someone who like I didn't enter the film festival, as you know, as a filmmaker. You know, I didn't come into it from that perspective. I studied writing while you were studying film, and we came together on you know, I wanted to run the event, you know, and I do all the words, you know, I do the publicity and
I'll come up with outlandish ideas.
I'm on the words, along with, by the way, Senor Jenap, who is
big shout out to
the best event coordinator out there with us,
aka Jonathan Chapman.
Yes,
mate. Oh, holy shit, dude.
Yeah. Shout out to him.
You are just a dude with flying colours, and you are always welcome at my campfire.
Always, yeah. And Nat, who's stuck with us as well. She's okay. On our social media.
She's okay.
You know, but we do a pretty good job together. And so yeah, words. That's Jay and me, and you're on the vision, and I think we make a great team putting it together every year.
It takes a little bit of balls, mate. It takes a little bit of balls, because don't get me wrong, you got to do the back end, and like guys, if you're doing a film, if you're doing a band, if you're doing a festival, whatever it is, it's going to take some back end. It's going to take some administrative work. But at the front end of that, you know, don't forget, if there's a back end, there's a front end, and that front end, it takes tenacity. It takes a little bit of going, fuck it, man, I'm just going to do this. You got to have a bit of that about you, you know. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is, like, you work for so long, you know, getting things ready, and then the actual event is really quite fast, you know, half the time you miss it. You know,
no, totally,
and it's over and done with so quickly, and you're so exhausted at the end of it that you go, oh, that was amazing, and then you go, hey, I'd do that again.
It's the same as doing a film. When you're doing a film, right, you'll be at the crescendo of the film where you've shot the best scene and you haven't slept in fucking days, and you're like, why in the fuck am I doing this? And then you get to the end of the film, you're like, all right, so I better start writing a script. I better start doing this again.
Get the next one ready.
And it's the same with the festival. Like, it gets so stressful, but then you get that release at the end, that piston release, and you're like, man, that's why we're doing it, because it's having a positive effect on what we're doing and what we're doing with the people around us. It's totally a buzz, but man, I've got to say, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of goddamn work.
Yeah, but you know, I hope that work pushes everybody else to also put in the work as well.
I hope it rubs off a bit, yeah.
And it does, I think, because, you know, every year everybody's making another film and entering it again.
I mean, these guys are kicking fucking goals.
It's awesome, and I love seeing it. I love seeing, you know, we got, like, you remember, you know, Raj Sharma, right?
Yeah.
And he was
I'm going to get you. I'm going to net you for 2020, bud. I'm going to get you on my show.
Awesome cinematographer, and made his first creative short film in 2016 with The Briefcase.
Yeah,
right?
The Briefcase with that.
And has just absolutely skyrocketed. He's now, you know, international ambassador for brands, you know, camera brands, lighting rigs, all the rest of it. He's just doing so well, you know.
Yeah, and he's a rock star, man.
You just think, a rock star. You know, all we needed is just a, you know, one step up, you know, somewhere to rest your foot as you launch and make your way, you know.
There's a few that have been doing that. You got your Luke Walkers, you got your Rachel Bell Myers, you got your Bina Water Chargers. Big shout out to Bina. I'm going to net you next year for my show, mate. Yep. Got you in mind.
Bina's films are some of my favourite. Oh, man. I love them.
Crafty lady. Holy shit.
Yep, I love them. And, you know, shout out to RBM as well. I just saw the other day.
Another crafty person.
She was directing, you know, a video with 250 people in it.
Well, I do apologise for my comment on your feed today, because I did say to Rachel, she's got a megaphone in her face, and I'm like, so you need a megaphone? You know, shit.
That lady can command attention without a megaphone, that's for sure.
I think she's certainly someone that commands respect but doesn't demand it.
Yeah. And there's so many people like that, you know.
They're everywhere.
Who are doing doing awesome things, and I just think we're really privileged to be able to be part of that, and just give them the voice, or give them a platform to be seen. We're just about making a fuss, we'll make the fuss.
I'll make a total fuss,
and so that everybody else gets the attention.
I think for me and you, I think it's ironic how it came about. See, I started the festival out of protest. Like don't get me wrong, we're past the protest. We're now to celebration, right? But you got to understand that it came out of protest, because I tried to set up a viewing for films that were made in my cohort at film school.
Yeah, we were in honours year, right? So,
yeah, no.
Or third year.
Yeah, third year of the degree, and they were happy to show the film midday in an auditorium, and that was it. And I was working with the TV station at the time doing coverage for the design group at the same university.
Right.
And they were getting like 40 grand for one day to do a viewing, and they had augmented realities. Like, they had some shit going on. And not to talk them down, they were doing really cool things, man. But what I saw was the contrast between those two things. And I'm like, we're making these films and we have to show it at midday, and we don't get a chance to even drink wine and eat cheese at these things.
It's all about the wine and cheese.
Yeah, but like I was there with.
But it's about the atmosphere, right? This is what we were saying before.
It's not about the sausage. It's about the sizzle, man. The barbecue is about the people standing around the barbecue, not what's on the barbecue. And don't get me wrong, man. Like, we've got to a point where that content is fucking mint. It's just ridiculously off tap, right? We'll get to that soon, don't get me wrong. But the beginnings of the festival started out with me and a colleague sitting in a bar bitching about how we don't have a place to screen our films, while sitting in a bar that has a screen in it. It started at the Roxy Hotel, and that started with a guy called Ty. If you ever watched this, Ty, big shout out to you, man. You got to start in this industry. It's really cool.
Yep.
But we 12 filmmakers put on some films in the first year. We had this ridiculous name because it had I didn't have a say in the name. Okay, I didn't have a say in the name. The green screen was what it was called. It was 2012, right? So the year after that then becomes Made in the West. And, yes, I called it Made in the West because that's how the West was won, was by making in the West, right?
Yeah, our first poster design had a cowboy in it.
Yeah, totally. It was totally a Western idea and about the, city versus, not country, but suburbia perhaps. And these two things existed. And, that was set up through that. And, Made in the West has gone through 3 evolutions since that time. The first evolution was me getting USB sticks, running an email chain, running a small...
I remember the days when you used to run onto stage and run a laptop on the stage,
Yeah, the projector was in front of... Yeah, totally.
In between, everybody be clapping and then you run on.
Again. But ultimately, it was a guys just to show our own films,
That's
right?
It.
So the first year we had 100 people show up, and the second year we had 300 people show up to that cinema to watch these 3 films that we made, and alongside...
And we called the newspapers and had interviews out the front before everybody came in. It was great.
And I never thought in a million years that anyone would take grip of that.
Yeah.
Ever. I must come from that approach. I must be very honest about that. I had no idea that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But when that did happen, because that was the second year running screenings at that venue, everyone goes well, so next year? You're like, oh, fuck, all right. I should totally do that. This is something that's really cool, and we should totally run with it.
Yeah.
And I guess what my point is, it started out of a protest. That protest turned into a celebration. That celebration has now morphed 3 times. And the first morph was where I was running everything, and then I realised I can't run everything.
Well, I think the changeover...
I can't do everything.
The changeover happened when
that's where you come into a lot.
Shut down. Because that was a really last minute thing that happened. The Roxy shut down, and suddenly you're finding a new venue.
Fucking political.
And we end up in the Paddington RSL in the upstairs screening room, and it was such a good venue because I just loved the red velvet.
It was well
and
selected.
the gold banisters
it was very well
and all
selected.
these sorts of things.
Oh gosh.
Can't say the screen was fantastic at the time. Can't say the seating was beautiful.
It was an
but
SD
it
screen
had
with
the
shitty
atmosphere we
seats,
wanted,
but
you know.
nice trimming, nice photographs.
And the bar was close by.
But it was all about the photographs. Yeah, it was all about the photographs and the alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that sounds terrible. It sounds shallow in a way. But if you think about it, the photos is what you look back on, and the alcohol is what gets everyone lubricated so they network.
Well,
so it's actually about the networking.
I actually think
the networking and the aesthetics of that networking.
Yeah, I think the social occasion of it, the booze, right, is actually one of the things that I look back on most fondly, and this is how I think about it, right? I think if it weren't for your insight into how a bar as a business works, a hotel establishment works, then you would never have said to that manager, hey, if I bring 120 people here on a Thursday night for a screening night and they all drink at this bar, will you give me that screen for free?
Yeah, that's true.
If it weren't for that knowledge, and if it weren't for those people coming and buying a drink, we never would have got the screen.
Well, they just want to make their bottom end, right?
That's right.
They just want to make their bottom end.
And if
It's
it
a bar.
weren't for your
It's a bar.
understanding of that process, we never would have gotten in there. And even when it came to the Paddington RSL as well, we might have had to pay for the venue, but at the same time,
Always got a discount for
we
it.
always got a discount for it on the understanding that everybody would come and have a good night and have a drink.
Yeah, but they're not just going to buy one drink. They're going to buy several drinks and have a good night.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong. It's the networking is what it's about.
Absolutely.
It's about the networking because
Absolutely.
it's off, 6 to 15 different parties coming together in a room going, I've got this film idea. You got a script? Yeah, totally got a script. Because you got to understand, as a filmmaker, if you're in a bar talking about being a filmmaker, I've got this movie. I've got this idea for a movie.
Everybody's got a movie.
Everyone's got an idea for a movie. The first question you ask as a filmmaker is like, have you got a script for that film? No. Well, you don't have an idea for the movie.
Well, even if they've got a script, do you have a producer?
Well, the producer's a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's one thing that I've had to learn very quickly.
Producers are central to anything getting done. That's
look,
what I know.
Look,
Shout out to Jay again.
There's look, I can't exist without my producers, man. Shit, you guys do everything for
I'm not saying
me.
you, I'm saying everyone. All filmmakers.
Oh no, just me personally.
Comes in a team.
Yeah, just me personally. I couldn't operate without you guys, because I do all these crazy ideas and they need to come to fruition somehow. And
I love a producer. We were at the Filmmakers Hangout the other night, right? And the Western Sydney Filmmakers Hangout is a like once quarterly,
Thank
catch
you, Matt
up.
Vella. Thank you, Rachel Bob Myers.
Yes, catch up where local filmmakers can come together and have a drink and talk about their films, right? Yeah. I met this girl there and I said, oh, what do you do? And she said, I'm a producer. And I was like, you're my gal. You understand. It's all about being organised. It's all about the paperwork.
There's all kind of producers out there.
We all have different...
There's all kind of producers out there.
What you're saying is there could be a good producer and a bad producer?
Totally. Totally, man. Like, from commercial to community to independent, they're all, like... And microcosms, within that there's all got different kinds of producers.
Yeah, and of course when you find a good one, you hang on to them.
Yeah, but there's technical proficiency as well, which I found with producers to be difficult because you go through all this technical prowess and you're trying to translate what's possible, what's not possible, because you got what's within budget and time and effort as well. You go the cost of, like what's the effect of.
Yeah, sometimes you can't achieve the thing that you envision.
Yeah. There's boundaries, and sometimes producers forget those boundaries. I mean, I was working with this guy.
I forget those boundaries.
Most producers do. I think that's my point.
All the time. Maybe that is your point.
Maybe that's my point. There are boundaries to what I can. Look, I was with this guy who was a cameraman from Channel 9, right? Now, no names mentioned in this scenario, but I'll say this. We had a producer where we were just collecting news for the 6 o'clock news, whatever, right? And we didn't get a break all day. 10-hour day, camera on shoulder, getting shots.
Jeez.
And he shouts at the producer that's like talking to the reporter, because you got the reporter, it's got the mic in front, you got the cameraman, right? And the cameraman getting footage, right? And he's gone, if I had murdered someone, I would have got a lunch break. because you think about the context of that, because essentially what he's saying is, if I murder you, I would have got a lunch break. Mm-hmm. You know, but we'd been working 10 hours, no food.
Yep.
Camera on shoulder, ready to go. And most of that is going to be 30 seconds on the news. So 10 hours to get 30 seconds, you're like, I murdered
that
someone.
blows my mind. That was one of the things
producers push people
blew
hard,
my
is my
mind
point.
so much on the first time that you were on set, is knowing that you had worked all day from as early as you could get people to arrive. Right?
Yeah, that's the key.
As early as you could get people to arrive, right through. Sometimes, you don't want to push people past 5 o'clock, but sometimes you're doing 6:30, 7 o'clock, and if you're going into nighttime, you're in bad territory, right? So that doesn't happen very often. But all you can get done is like 3 minutes worth of content that's going to be in your short film,
That's right.
And that just blew my mind the first time, thinking about all of that work that goes into making such a small amount of a creative product to give to people, microphone.
Well, look, I was talking to Dave Hoy last week, right? Yeah. So the episode before this episode,
love
right?
Dave's movies.
Man, what an absolute charismatic dude. But I remember talking to him about his first film, and he did 130 shots in one day. No, sorry, 150 shots scheduled for the day. Because I'd schedule like 30 shots in a day, and 30 is a lot.
I had 60 in my head, so
60. You see, producer, we could double that. We could squeeze that lemon. We could squeeze that lemon.
Well, so this is where my role was.
It's amazing
in a full day.
It has an administrative role to it, it has a creative role to it, but then it has the time, this restraint, which I find amusing. If I'd murder somebody, I'd still get a lunch break. Hour off.
Well, so. Being on catering was actually the first way that I entered one of your sets, right? So
what set was that for? What was that for?
Must have been pushing the envelope, because I remember my job.
Eat a sandwich catering. Yeah, I remember that.
It was I was always a location manager of some kind. But anyway, what I realised over your first few films was that. If you come out in the late morning with something sweet like some cake, and if you come out in the early afternoon just after lunch with some espressos, everybody's going to love it.
All right. No, serious rules to filmmaking, people. Serious rules to filmmaking. Always feed the cast. Always feed the crew. Always have a wrap party.
Provide coffee.
Always provide coffee. Always provide food. Do not let people go on a lunch break to go off and wander.
You never get them back.
You never get them back. You'll be stuck with a half hour of not. What you need to do is make sure that everything that anyone needs is on set at all times. Food, Panadols, first aid kit, water, sunlight,
and that's where it comes into planning, right? In pre-production, you're identifying contingencies, what might happen, what you might need, who needs what at what time,
up,
all that stuff.
Double up,
and that's I think I get off on that side of it, sort of thing. Being
you gotta have the
prepared,
you gotta have the minimals.
That when it time comes, you've got what's
be excessive.
needed.
Be a little bit excessive as well. Like, if
you mean like a bit decadent for people?
Yeah,
Is that what you
absolutely.
mean for
You got to treat people like a star, man. If you treat them like a star,
food's important. They'll
always
food
show
goes
up.
straight to the heart, and people work. People
and
work
if they
well
show
when
up
they
to
get food.
show up to the wrap party. No, don't bring a case. We've got you sorted. Just show up to the party. We've got wine. We've got spirits. We've got beer. You're sorted. Just come and mingle and enjoy the screening, right? Because usually at a wrap party you chuck a screening as well.
Oh, you've had some great wrap parties. I remember,
insane, I think is the word.
Rigging up outdoor screens and stuff. Fire dancing. I remember at one.
I think one post that I'm really fond of is when I was doing fire dancing with Poi.
Yeah.
And the photo was taken of me like with the Poi right next to the camera, and it had a caption like, "My director thanking me."
I think I remember the post.
Yeah, but people walk away with that. If you make them feel special on set, even before that, when you're in rehearsal, get them into a rehearsal, because going onto a set without a rehearsal is not paying the due diligence, right? You need to have a good rehearsal, get people acquainted, get them acquainted on set, get them acquainted during the post-production, and get them acquainted at the wrap party. Get them to a screening. Let them walk a red carpet.
Well, the thing about
Show them that they're important, because the work that they've put in is really important, whether they're paid or not. Both of those things are important.
The thing about the wrap party or the screening is, well, the wrap party and the screening are slightly different, but similar in a way, in that you've all put all this work in. You've got to see it. You know, and it amazes me when I hear stories about people who've made a film and then not shown any. I mean, I can totally understand it. Like, I can understand it as an artist, and maybe you weren't happy with it and you don't want to show people or that sort of thing. But as a cast member, I can imagine wanting to see that film.
Yeah, you want to see.
At the end, and seeing what came of it, so that you can even so you can be critical on yourself and think about what can improve and what, you know, what to change for next time. But just that enjoyment of watching it is worth it.
I'm really glad I'm drinking beer with you on this podcast.
Whoa!
Not that I don't drink beer with other people on this podcast.
Oh, excuse me. Mind my champagne.
Mind your champagne. So there's the cut point right there. So it's going to have a boop. But nonetheless, the drunkenness that ensued.
Yes.
My love, my darling. Oh my gosh. So where were we?
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh look, I've been dying to have you on the podcast. I really have.
I love it.
I really have.
I love seeing who you speak to. I love you hearing all the stories that come out of the Pagey train every week. It's so good.
Yeah, but look, I wanted to get you on the Pagey train earlier, but I had a reservation about it.
I've been busy.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to put the pressure on you. I didn't want to put the pressure on you because you're doing the PhD. You're the managing director of Maine and the West, Sydney Writers Festivals. Volunteer coordinator. This is a lot of work, and I just didn't want to push this on you straight away.
That's all right.
I had other guests that I could punish before we got to that point.
Spread the love around a little bit.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you in a few weeks. But I needed you tonight, and I'm really glad that you've done it. And
me too.
And I think, I'm just. I would have rathered later, but the same thing exists now, and that's it. I'm just really glad to have you on the show, and it's been the most nerve-wracking episode for me. To have someone that's so close to my heart, someone that's so close to my soul, and oh my gosh. But we're doing some really cool things together. If you haven't noticed, we do Maine and the West Band.
I know.
If you haven't noticed.
People ask me all the time, well, that's an exaggeration. I've had a few people ask me.
There's been 3 people out of the 100 that have asked me. So you guys are on a festival.
No, managing that relationship plus working together, being co-workers as well as partners is
but we've done it before.
Challenging
we've done
hard, but
we've done it before though.
It's definitely it takes a little bit of getting used to. It takes practice, and especially because we're both such strong independent people,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
and ultimately, I'm a producer, and you're the art. We put the producer hat on. I have to be like,
put the director hat on.
Ross has his artist hat on.
It's okay for you. You're the talent.
He's the talent.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I say things like that.
Try talent on for a size, mate. Fuck shit.
I know, terrible.
No, but with that aside, though, I've worked with you at Television Sydney. I think you've been my boss, and I've been your boss. It's all kind of erotic, really, if you think about it.
We did Maine in the West TV together. That was a hoot.
Oh, absolutely, that was a hoot. But you were totally an executive producer from the first round of that. You definitely were. Hey, Nate, can you pull up some Maine in the West TV for us?
Yeah. Doesn't it look great?
Look, you guys are going to understand, seriously.
And Sunil, my favourite, Sunil Badami, shout out to you.
Yeah, a big shout out. But guys, I've got to say, to get to this point, for me personally, working on different television shows, probably in the myriad of, maybe 100 episodes over 6 different series of different types of TV shows. There's been a lot of TV shows. To finally get your first executive producer role is a really big deal.
What a feather in your cap. It's
amazing. I must say, I'm totally elated. Is that right?
Yeah, you're excited.
It just... I have to confirm with her to make sure I'm elated.
You're allowed to be elated.
I'm allowed to be.
You can be totally stoked.
Oh, but look,
I'm totally fucking stoked, man.
But
that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, it's totally a totally good feeling, dude, because you're getting this talent that's out there, but at the same time, you're targeting your own talent to make that cool, right? And it's a really big buzz. It really is. But to get your first executive producer role, I was really stoked with that. And I can't wait to do the next episode because we've got 2019 coming up.
Yep.
We've got it totally lined up. You guys got to get into Made in the West this year because our first 3 contenders, Best in the West, Best Student Film, and the Audience Choice Award, you have a chance to be on our Made in the West TV, fully, set our set. And
it's such a...
done. I'm going to fucking die. Maybe I'm more choking up and I'm dying here. I'm not... Help me, Misty. Help me. We've got an opportunity for you guys. Hop onto that because it's totally worthwhile. We're getting out to Aurora TV, hopefully, and if it doesn't, it's doing okay on YouTube. So it's top on board.
As long as people see it, like that's the thing.
They
as long
do see it.
If people are watching it, I don't mind what platform it's on. Realistically, I can't watch Aurora, so all I'd be saying is go and watch it on Aurora, and then nobody I know is that would see
I know,
it.
but that's
that
why
sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know, but I mean that's why I miss community TV. I don't want to get too deep into it because
let's talk about community TV. I think it's a real shame that out of all of the states in Australia, Sydney was the only one that ended up with no community television after that whole debacle of shutting them down.
Me,
it's a real shame.
But I find it really touchy, Misty. I find it
it's
really
a touchy subject, I know.
Because I was so invested in that. And, I was doing all these creative things for this organisation that was doing really well. We turned that
such
profit...
good people there.
But we had the bottom line.
Yeah.
We turned that profit around. We moved that market share fourfold. And that is so hard to do.
You put on Fright Nights on Friday 13th
Yeah, man.
it was great.
Man, check it out. If you want to check out go further down into the Still Searching Productions and Pagey Train channel, and you'll find some voiceovers that we did. Working with Jolene Garcia, big shout out.
Yeah,
man, we turned that station around. We increased our market share, which is a really big thing to do in that really arduous environment. And to have that shut down after progressing, after meeting above your performance is such a kick to your balls. I can't tell you how bad that feels.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody involved in the ending of TVS also feels bad.
Yeah, and it was just poor government. Really, I'm not saying it's Liberal or Labor, I'm just saying it's poor government. Whatever governance was at play at the time, it wasn't done properly, and it was done out of a knee-jerk reaction to the internet. Something they didn't understand. It's just really confusing.
Possibly.
For me, it's really confusing.
I don't know the inner workings of how it all came about. I just think it's a real shame that
it's a shame.
Out of all the capital cities in Australia, emerging producers and content makers don't have a space on free-to-air television.
You need a leg up.
I think that's a real shame.
You need a leg up, and part of that leg up, of course the internet exists. Of course it exists for that. But with that aside, we were doing everything from newsroom sort of work to slapstick comedy. We were covering the whole spectrum,
making promos and stuff as well.
And doing these cool pieces to cameras and putting these cool shows together about Ozploitation and reporting on local news. Just being this really honest entity, an immensely honest entity. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a religious person, but man, we had a religious content on there, from...
early morning content.
Yeah, that broad spectrum of religious content on a Sunday and a Saturday.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we had our children's programming, which was very scientifically based and very well balanced to that... enthusiast content, to four-wheel drive TV, to restorations and how to sew things together, and then that's where the news comes in around the prime time, and then your raunchy shows and films that were played from the 1950s all the way up until now with your schlocky horror picture show and doing these horror films, you know, there's this massive contrast that existed in that space.
Yeah.
With a really decent
Well, it was
audience.
whatever anybody was making, and I think actually, in a way,
And
that
it's
really
accessible. That's the thing. It was it's accessible.
It inspired Made in the West. I think it inspired you
Totally.
and Made in the West in the way that
It inspired this podcast.
Made in the West doesn't have any entry criteria other than someone from Western Sydney has to be involved in the project, right?
Yeah.
That's the only criteria.
It's an easy criteria to meet, yeah.
That's right.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
It's not hard, people.
Someone from the West has to be involved in it, whether that's as a cast member or a crew member or even a location, right? So something West has to be about it.
Yeah. It needs the sinkhole.
Yeah. And TVS was like that too, in that no matter what genre you're making, no matter what you're doing, if you need a platform for it, if it's being made in Sydney, then we can screen it.
But Misty,
as long as it's good enough
Adelaide, Channel 44 Adelaide survived that fucking war.
Yeah.
But Sydney TV, you know, Television Sydney did not survive
Yeah,
it.
I thought all of them did except Sydney.
Yeah. Sydney was the only one that fell, and it's a real shame. And it's not to the detriment of anyone involved, because we know the people involved. They all worked really hard. But I think the point is that they were put under that duress to begin with. And the duress was not necessary because it still stands and now it's been revoked. So in the process of that, you sent a $4 million company to the wall. You know, and
Yeah, it's a real shame.
I'm not helping my political career by even saying so, but fuck that. Like, you know, we got fucked over.
Well, I hope that Made in the West becomes something that that fills that void. I think
it's a participant in filling that void. There's other things that will fill the void.
Oh, of course,
yeah.
of course. But you know my fascination with online platforms and setting things up in such a way that makes it accessible. I think Made in the West has an opportunity there to be able to help. In some way, give voice to people who are making content out there,
that's
making
the key.
films.
That's the key. Giving voice, right?
Yeah.
Giving voice to things is important. Like, again, don't get me wrong. People give you a pat on the back for doing things in Made in the West, representing women on screen, or representing colour on screen, and then you got to remind them that's not what we're doing. We're just representing content.
Well, we're representing Western Sydney, and
it just so happens
that Western Sydney is very diverse, there are so many different people.
It's a horse
that live
before
here,
the cart issue.
Yeah. And but the thing with Western Sydney, and as an outsider who lobbed into Western Sydney 10 years ago and has lived here for the last 10 years,
being a Westie,
being a Westie,
WW,
yeah.
WW1.
There's also a level of outsideness, even just being from the suburbs in Sydney. Sydney has an amazing amount of opportunity.
There's strange things. I imagine these strange things exist all around the world, though. It exists all around the world. Like, for instance, my friends from Melbourne would be more about what school did you go to? Right, so it's more about where you're from.
Yeah.
In Sydney, it's more about where do you live?
Right.
It's not about what school you went to.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter where you come from. It matters where you are.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And when you go to an extreme contrast and you look at Perth,
you're a northie or a southie?
No, well, these things exist, but not in the same context. It's not as important. It matters what you do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
No, I don't know if that's just something that I've experienced. I don't know if that's like real as a generalisation. I don't want it to come across that way, but that's just something that I've experienced. So, people from Melbourne are more about where you're from, people from Sydney about where you are, and people on the northern part of Australia and western part of Australia are more about what are you doing? What do you do for a living? So in Perth, people more ask, what do you do for a living? Sydney, more people ask, where do you live? People from Melbourne are more like, where'd you come from?
I wonder if that's...
I don't know if it's true.
I wonder if that has influenced how you and I are together. Because we met in Perth, right?
Yes.
And if Perth is the place of what do you do, then... And we brought that over to Sydney, which is the place of where are you at, right? So then now, is it just a coincidence that what we do now is very much about, where are you at and what are you doing about it? You know, those
maybe
those two things perhaps have influenced us and the choices that we've made.
Yeah, I think that's really valid. I don't have the answer to that, by the way, but I think that ties into perhaps that zeitgeist has shifted around Australia. I think that we're such in an adolescent mode as the world in general, but as Australia as well. I think we're in this adolescent transition of evolution, because we're in this thing that we don't know what it is, you know, and there's so many contrasts to that. Whether it's
you mean life?
Yeah, no, totally. Like
there's a concept in philosophy called throne.
Oh, we're about to get deep. We're about to get deep. We're about to get deep here.
I forget the name of it, but it's
But I'm willing.
It's on the tip of my tongue. It's a German word, but it means throneness, and the idea that you get thrown into life.
Thrust.
And you sort of wake up as a young person and go, where am I? And what am I doing here? You know, that idea that nobody knows why we're here or what we're supposed to be doing. We're all just doing the thing that we think we're supposed to be doing.
Well, that's why I like Bill Hicks, because he has this philosophy go, you know what you're doing. No. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, that's fine. But we all pretend like we know what we're doing.
That's why I like sociology.
Everyone's got an idea.
I think,
but no one's got an idea.
You know,
it's a suspension of paradox.
I find it fascinating to think about the idea that society is a construct. You know, it's something that is learned. It is something that is taught to people.
But that's very existential.
And passed down.
That's very existential, because you go, well, that's a meaning of life question.
Well. I
what does it all mean?
I often have questions about the meaning of life and what it all means.
Me too. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing.
But disassociating what society is from what life is, or from what we're meant to do. I think those two things are very important to do. Like, I think it's important to separate those two things.
This is where I get crazy on this side of things. Like, I don't know if I'm wrong or right. This is just a thought that I'm apt to at the moment, like the hive mentality. You know, essentially, if you look at the size of the universe, we're just microbes that are walking around this ball of dirt in the middle of nowhere. Right, not even the middle of nowhere. Middle of nowhere is very specific to where we are. That's even worse than that. Like, it's smaller. It's smaller. But the idea of think, therefore I am. Who was that? Descartes. Think, therefore I am. But then you go to the death of the author. I make this movie and this idea, and you have your own interpretation. Who's the death of the author? Come on.
That's Roland Barthes.
Roland Barthes. Man, see, this is why I date you. Marrying?
There's a lot sort of in
this is why I married
those
her.
Ideas. Yeah, there's a lot in those ideas. And
I don't even know what that is.
I spend time contemplating those ideas. I mean, you know, obviously being in research, you have to think about those ideas and unpack things.
But it's pretty deep, though.
You know, yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah, but
I don't know the answers to
relating
it
back to life, right? Our everyday life that we construct for ourselves and participate in regularly. A festival is a construct too, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring it back to that. It's this construct.
It's the same thing. You construct a space that exists in time, in a particular set time, and it has a particular way that you are expected to interact and be. You know, in that moment, and it brings out a side in you, one part of you that you experience in that moment. You know, in the same way that other frames of your life you experience other things. Like this is fascinating.
I do find it fascinating. I do, because it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
It comes down to perspective and what you think, author versus the audience. And those things are merging. We're in an emergence of that, you know.
You mean like consumer producers?
Yeah, because the producers are becoming consumers. Like, here we are on this podcast, right? And I'm a consumer that's now a producer. Like,
yeah.
And what's the purpose? What's the purpose of doing it? To witty banter about what we're doing and why we're doing it?
It does seem that is the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what and the interesting thing is that people are...
What does it mean?
You know, people are interested in that.
I find it fascinating.
I think people are interested in authenticity these days. I think authenticity drives a lot of what people are interested in, partly because a lot of what we see is so unreal. And
hashtag fake news. Hashtag Nate. Space is fake.
Space Force.
Space Force.
I'm in.
Finally had a comb over with $1 billion to match. Sorry, I've broken our chain here.
Yeah.
Where the fuck were we going?
Where were we going?
Space is fake?
No, you even lost me.
Fake
No.
news.
No, we were talking about existential ideas about why we have stories and what we're doing and why we're doing it. Like, what is it to have this podcast? What is it to have to think for, therefore I am? What is it to have the death of the author? That's where we're at.
And what it means to be authentic in that space, being on screen. It's not even on television anymore. It's not even on a big screen. It's not even on the internet. It's just on screen.
Yeah, but this is the paradox. It's about
And
being authentic while being fictitious.
The media that we consume is
Hashtag fake news.
has this vision of what life is, and it's not necessarily what life really is. And people have come to know that. We've been dealing with television and images in the media for quite some time, and especially now with fake news coming up, and especially now with the media influencing
Alternative
politics,
facts.
and especially now with the state of the media as it is, people are questioning what they see, and questioning
everything
what's
and
real,
make your own decisions. I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think
you really nailed it there.
anything that generates anything that sort of helps people see an authentic side of life and an authentic way of being, I think is really valuable. And even to bring it back further to what we were talking about before, when we were talking about the Writers' Festival and talking about seeing an artist on stage, and you get to hear the process that they went through and identify
their journey and how you
with
resonate
how
with that journey,
that worked, and see yourself in that space as well. I think that's all part of it, and that's part of what some people, not all people, but some people are looking for, and what they're searching for is that connection and that identification, and part of belonging. Yeah,
there is a belonging to it, and I think, I was saying it before. If you take 20 people, chuck them onto a football field, 50 meters by 100 meters. Are they going to stand equally apart, or are they going to stand together? And science shows that people want to stand together. They want to be accepted.
they'll generally huddle.
They'll huddle together. No one wants to be alone. And I think we're in this complex world of this transition of evolution. Like we are massively in a civil movement.
Transitional time.
Yeah, we are. We really are. We're at the tip of the sword of what is going on right now. All of us. No one is excluded from that.
Power rebalancing or finding its way towards some kind of balance. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I think a nice way to put it is just figuring it out. We are canaries in the coal mine. Like, you look at Star Trek, we didn't know that social media would exist out of the dreams of the mechanical world of travelling through the stars.
Couldn't have imagined that social media existed.
Yeah, it was unpredictable. And what's coming out of it is unpredictable. It's not predicted. I think, we're in this thing. There's no getting out of it. We're in this thing. But I think, ultimately, if we had the idea of looking after each other well, we'd do a lot better. If we put our resources into things that advance us in our search for inner space and outer space. I know that sounds like a really hippie idea, but if you think about it...
You're talking to a hippie.
Yeah, I know, but if you think about it, right? If we figure out what makes us tick in here, and if we figure out what fuel it takes us to get there, we'd be better off. And there seems to be this idle in between of doing these donuts, these spin outs, these exercises of fuel that are unnecessary. And that's wars and tyranny and these things that we fuck up. And look, if you bring it down to your own personal life, no one's fucking perfect, man. People fuck things up all the time. But if we acknowledge that, and if we get a good grip on that, and then celebrate the things that we're doing cool by putting voices up that need to be voiced, and perhaps standing against those that have too loud of a megaphone making fucking bad words, right? You're free to do so. That's your free speech, and you're entitled to do so. But we need the right rebuttal to it. You know, and
well, talking about
I'm all for that.
Talking about heading off to space, right?
All right.
So we're
going out of space.
So, yeah,
strap in.
So I've never been one to imagine myself going to a foreign planet, right? Or foreign to me.
I have.
However, I know you have. I know you have.
I think I've done more LSD than you.
But this is what's fascinating about you and me, right? And this is why we work well together, is because we both have different perspectives. So I've never imagined going to the other planet, but I have. I'm trying to think of what movie it was that this reminds me of. But I have
it's
imagined.
Deep Impact.
Yes,
We're doing Deep Impact here.
I have imagined being the person left behind with five. No, that's Contact, is it?
Oh no, Deep Impact.
with 5 people who've jetted off to a different planet and left behind the entire population of Earth to die. Right? That's what I imagine. Like, I think to myself, well, it's great that these, maybe 50 people are going to go and or 120 people are going to go and colonize another planet, right? But what about me? I'm left behind, And so that's but I think first of all, I think it's important to try to fix what we've got, as well as think about moving on to another place. But as well as that, in addition, I think that there is a turning point coming.
I think so too.
I really don't think we're going to fail as a human race.
I don't think so either.
Right? But
it's going to be tough.
But
it's going to be tough,
work very well under pressure.
It's going to be tough.
And when it comes time to do or die, I think we'll do. The trouble is, how far does that have to go? How far does that have to go before we get into that position where we do or die?
If someone's going to win, someone's got to lose, right? But I totally dig that. And I think we had World War One, which brought us around to this idea of the Great War. It's referred to as the Great War. And beyond that, we had World War Two. And during those processes, some would say, I hate to bring that reference in, but some would say that technological advances happened during those two wars.
Yeah.
But I argue against that. I really do. I rebut that. Don't get me wrong. I see that there are technological advances during this time.
In between or because of those wars?
But no. Things in between.
In between.
Yeah, the Wright brothers, right?
And you're saying that
Yeah. The guys, the Wright brothers. Orville Wright.
Paled in comparison to the war.
Flew a plane before the war. Flight. Which is such an important part of our existence right now.
Yeah.
Existed without war existing.
Absolutely.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
That is a fact. Don't get me wrong.
The war has existed for
perfection, to be perfected.
Of years, right?
But I guess what I'm saying, that science projects regardless of a war happening. So because there are those that out there that say, and I hate to make that reference again, but there are that say, well, war is a necessary evil to have technological advancement. And I disagree with that, because we discovered flight without war. Right?
Oh, I disagree too.
Yeah, I totally disagree with that.
There are also people that say that war is an opportunity to make profit.
Yeah, I understand the acceleration of these pressures to increase technology, but I also understand the accelerations of human endeavour to search for it anyway. Galileo was not looking through a telescope to find Jupiter and its 4 moons because it was advantageous to the war. Did those lenses get used in naval battles? Absolutely. Right, the technology. The
internet was born from the military, wasn't it?
What I'm saying is that the horse before the cart is human endeavour. War is not the driving force here, and we have this perception that it is. And I guess to say to you, struggle may be an accelerator for human endeavour, and our current struggle isn't World War III. If we were to coin something as World War III, perhaps it is modifying the climate. Perhaps it is figuring out a way to feed shelter, and educate everyone on the planet. Perhaps that should be our next World War III. The casualties will be less, and the payoff will be bigger.
Yes.
I'm maybe just a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
You're not the only one. That's right.
Yeah, and I quote two really cool people right there, and may their souls rest in peace, but their message will live on. We should be doing better for each other, and we should be promoting artists with ideas, regardless of retribution of doing things. If you're a reporter and you have things that need to be reported in the public interest, you shouldn't be raided to do so. If you're an artist or a television station doing what you're supposed to be doing, you shouldn't be shut down for doing what is the justice of society, filling that fourth estate, filling that void of the public voice.
But it all comes down to power. And various types of power. There's lots of different types of power. Yeah. Economic power is obviously a very big one part of it. Cultural power, you got social power. It all comes down to how much capital you've amassed and whether or not you can influence people. And media is a really important tool for influencing people these days. And that's why I think that you're in a really powerful position. And all of the filmmakers in Western Sydney are in a really powerful position. I think every artist is in a powerful position. Now is the time for all artists to stand up and
I
speak.
totally agree. And we should be speaking through a real honest lens. And I think that we should only be doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, what's supposed to? What's supposed to?
Supposed to be doing is like having comment on society. Supposed to be doing is having a comment of our current state of affairs.
Yeah, well, I like that. I like that idea.
And there's one thing that I've heard in the last couple of years. Speak even if your voice trembles. I think that's a really valuable lesson. That's so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially in the context of that. Speak. If I got that right?
Yes, that was the catchphrase from it. It was a young girl by the name of Daisy who committed suicide. I think she was in the Northern Territory, if I remember correctly. And it was a campaign from her family talking about encouraging people to talk about mental health issues and speak even if your voice breaks, speak even if your voice breaks. And I think that's really important.
And I think that
some things are really hard to say though.
Yeah, I know, but
and it is really important to talk through them. I absolutely agree with you. And I know that a lot of people avoid talking about hard things, but the interesting thing is it's just as difficult to talk about bad things as it is to talk about beautiful good things like love, like how much you love people and your family
indulgence is difficult,
your friends, like it's
indulgence is difficult, but
it can be difficult to say those emotional things.
We certainly need to speak about the difficult things. And people that have suffered trauma, people that have survived horrific events, and people that have just grown up in the mundane, and that's the contrast.
I think everybody has gone through some form of trauma.
It's hard to avoid, right?
To varying degrees, don't get me wrong. But
it's not one that's worse or better than the others, but everyone has their thing.
Everybody has their anxieties, but it's part of our journey to figure that out about ourselves and figure out what we need in order to get there, to get where we think we want to go,
Well, Misty, look, I've got to say this, and a few things actually, not just this, because that means it's just a really poignant thing, and I'm talking about multiple things. It has been absolutely fantastic talking to you tonight. I think we've gotten really deep. I can't wait.
We did get a little philosophical, but it's all right.
Well, as my sister would say, philosophical. We certainly have gotten deep. And look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
To have you on talking about the Sydney Writers Festival, the Digital Writers Festival, and most important of all, of course,
Made in the West. West.
Main and Little West, man. We're fucking kicking
Totally.
goals. Get
Yeah.
on board.
Coming at you this November 23rd. We're going to be back at Event Cinemas in
Yeah, totally.
Liverpool.
We'll
They
get your
are
shit on
the
screen.
best. Shout out to Event Cinemas team. We
Yeah,
love,
we'll get your
we
shit on
love Event
screen.
Cinemas.
We'll
They've
get your
got
shit on that big screen.
beautiful screen, beautiful seats, leather armchairs. I'm so excited.
Man, you get in the fucking front row, we get your champagne, mate.
We're really looking forward to hosting, filmmakers, film lovers, everybody on the night. It's going to be huge.
But with that all said, being my partner in crime, being my confidant, being my love, I really thank you for being on the show, and I could not do any of this without you, so thank you so much.
No worries at all. Thank you too, my love.
All right. I love you dearly, and check us out on the Pagey train. Don't forget to subscribe. I think I'll put it over there. I'll do it that way. No, fuck it. We'll go that way. All right. Subscribe right there. Check out the Pagey train. Check out what we're doing. We're doing really cool things in Western Sydney. We're talking to really cool activists, actors, directors, musicians. We've got it all for you right here, and we'll see you next time. Boom. Sonic boom. Thank you very much, Nate.
Yeah.